Hare Santo Koti Vaishnavinda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnanatirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Samagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sajana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Cha Patitana Bhavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschasya Deshakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaurabhadra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to our study of 4th chapter, Transcendental Knowledge. So, very exciting verse to discuss today. Very famous verse. How many of you have memorized this verse? One or two of you. A very, very famous verse. So we'll discuss it today. It's also a very auspicious day in our calendar. It is Purnima. It is the appearance day of who? Lord Hanuman. Hanuman Jayanti is today. It is also the day of Balaram Rasyatra, Rasa Purnima. When Lord Balaram performed his Rasa Leela pastime. We know so much about Krishna's Rasa Leela pastime, or at least something, but actually Lord Balaram also did. It's also the appearance day of great Shamananda Pandit. So like this, many auspicious events today. So it's a very wonderful day to be discussing this particular verse. So last week we discussed, it's also a very famous verse in which Krishna establishes some reasons why he appears. We've been talking about his appearance, the nature of his appearance, and how it is very different from all of us. And then last week he talked about why he appears, his Paritanaya Sadhanam, to protect the devotees, the sadhus, Vinashaya Duskritam, to destroy the miscreants, and also Dharma, to establish Dharma, re-establish. Okay? So to re-establish the principles of religion, thus he is appearing. And he appears Yuge Yuge, millennia after millennium. So, but we discussed the principal and primary reason Krishna comes. You remember why is the primary reason Krishna comes?
To enjoy with devotees.
To enjoy with his devotees. He can destroy a miscreant simply by the wink of his eye. Not even as a wink of his eye, just thinking. Done. That's how powerful the Supreme Lord is. Lying on the causal ocean, simply universes are emanating from his pores, manufacturing these giant universes, which are equipped with trillions and trillions and trillions of living entities and millions of planets, and all of this he's making just by lying. So you think one living entity, even if it's a powerful demon, within one of these universes he couldn't destroy. So we know that actually he comes to enjoy with his devotees. His devotees desire, his pure devotees desire to enjoy and give Krishna pleasure. And Krishna desires to give his devotees pleasure. So this is why he comes. So now in this verse, Krishna kind of sums up this first section of chapter 4. This very powerful statement. So we'll read and discuss this very powerful statement. So somebody would like to read the verse and then we'll go through the purport.
Janma karma cha me devam evam yo veti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti so Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. Oh Arjuna.
The Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord, is only partial, and that is the risk of returning to this material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and the activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. In the Brahma Samhita 5.33, it is stated that the Lord has many forms and incarnations. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers. As stated in the Vedas, Purusha Bodhini Upanishad, Eko Devo Nitya Leelanurakto Bhakta Vyapi Bhakta Hridayantar Atma. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many transcendental forms in relationships with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can without a doubt attain liberation. The Vedic version Tattvamasi is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, "You are the same Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead," is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. Tam eva viditvati mrityum eti nanyaha panta vidyate ayannaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there is no other way to achieve this perfection. Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3.8. that there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation simply, so to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad Gita according to mundane scholarship. Such empiric philosophers may assume very important roles in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna again says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So, very powerful statement Krishna is making. So let's kind of unpack this. So, liberation, is it so easy? No.
Yes, Prabhu.
So I'm getting yes and no.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
now we'll discuss. In what way is it not easy? And then we'll discuss in what way it is easy.
Difficult for impersonalist yogis.
Difficult for impersonalists. How
Yes.
difficult? How long it takes?
Many
Many
years.
lifetimes. When we think like, how difficult it is to become an engineer. 12 years of study, 4 years of college, maybe 1-2 years of master's. Then we think, to become doctor, 4 years of college and 4 years of medical school, and then long time, right? Can we contemplate something to achieve many lifetimes? We want everything so quickly, right? But are we willing to work for something now that will get many lifetimes from now? Anybody is willing to work for that? It's not so easy. But this process of liberation for the impersonalists, for the jnanis, is very difficult. And even after many lifetimes, is there any assurance they'll reach their goal?
No.
And even if they achieve liberation, is it a permanent place for them?
No, again,
They have to come back.
come back.
So the statement, Naiti mam iti sorjana. Arjuna, you don't return back. Does that apply to one who reaches the Brahma Jyoti, the impersonal liberation, Suyuja Mukti? Are they guaranteed never to come back? No. In fact, it is almost guaranteed that they will come back. So many lifetimes we work, and still it doesn't even give a permanent result. So this is not a good formula. Anybody wants a better formula? A better opportunity? Yeah. We all want a better option, right? Now Prabhuji said it's easy. So how is it easy?
We follow Krishna consciousness.
We follow Krishna. What does that mean?
Like
Bhakti Yoga.
Bhakti yoga,
so
We have faith in Krishna. So
faith in Krishna.
Good service.
Krishna will help us to get liberation.
Always remember Krishna.
Always remember
Yeah,
Krishna.
never
Krishna will help us. Never forget him.
It's not so easy.
Not so easy.
surrender unto him.
Surrender unto him. Think of him.
Think of him.
Only telling is easy. Following is practical. When really things comes, trust, belief, and knowledge, the trust factor will come.
Babaji is saying. So we like to say it this way. The process is simple, but not easy. How about that?
Yes.
Can we agree to that? It's a simple process. Chant. Association. Read Srila Prabhupada's books. Honor Prasadam. It's not a complicated formula, but it's not easy. And what makes it not easy?
when we apply our intelligence into it, and that is where we start questioning whether is it the right process, and we should simply be in the mode of like acting like a fool and just get that knowledge from the guru, then it becomes a easy process.
Yes. So who is the obstacle in making it easy?
Ourselves.
Ourselves. The process is simple and it is actually easy, but we make it difficult. And what is the primary feature within us that makes it difficult? Ego.
False
Ego. Ego. Because the ego, which is false ego, leads to the bodily conception. Go back to the principal cause of us acquiring this body and coming to the material world. What was the principal reason we came to the material world?
Why not me?
Why you, why not me? We said to
Krishna.
ego. I want to be God. Sorry, that position is taken. Accepted. But that is what brought us. So this ego, false ego, the false conception that I am not the infinitesimal tiny spark, but this conception I am something, more, is what brings one to the material world. Right? So that ego we have to shed in order to go back. To the extent we can shed the false ego, then what's the two-part formula here that Krishna is giving for liberation? There's two pieces to it.
Know his nature and activities.
Know his nature and activities. That's it. You don't see, 10,000 years of tapasya, intense meditation required, perform these various types of yajna. No complicated formula, right? Just these two things. Know his appearance and know his activities. So we can probably understand it's not so simple to know these two things, right? That's what you said. We can speak it, but to know it means something else, right? So what is the difference between having knowledge and realized knowledge? What's the difference? How do we know?
Application.
Application. If I apply the knowledge, then I have realized it. Right? Doctor tells me I have, sugar problem. I have knowledge. I keep eating rasgullas or gulab jamuns. Have I realized the knowledge? No, because it has not changed my behavior. Knowledge that results in a changed behavior is realized knowledge. Until then, it's not realized knowledge. It's the first step. Right? I think I gave the example last week that you have knowledge of how to escape the prison house. You know exactly the route out. But you stay stuck in the prison house. Have you realized that knowledge? No, because you haven't acted on it. Krishna here is giving us the formula out of the prison house of the material world. Right here. So last week we laughed, foolish. Who would know the way out and not take it? Well, now, if we don't take it, we are like that person. Actually, we are more foolish. Because we have an opportunity not just to get out of the material prison house, but to get to the spiritual world. So this knowledge, this transcendental knowledge Krishna is speaking about, it must come to the changing of our behavior. Then it is realized. And actually knowledge only has value if it leads to an altered behavior. If the doctor tells me I have a sugar problem, but it doesn't change it, what was the value of obtaining that knowledge? Nothing. There's no value until it changes my behavior. Right? So our value will be determined to the extent we apply this knowledge. But we see what is the benefit of applying this knowledge now. Something small or something big?
Huge.
Huge. Something the Gyanis are attempting for many, many, many lifetimes. And the process also is very difficult. Intense rote speculation, abstaining from matter, trying to control the senses, not enjoying any dry. Prabhupada used the word dry mental speculation. When we eat like a dry, hard chapati, it's just not
Without
so
sabji.
palatable. Huh?
Without sabji.
Without sabji. It's not so palatable. They want a warm, hot, fluffy ghee dripping off the edge. That is chapati, right? Of course, with no cholesterol. But this process is so. Here we're getting the very great opportunity. And what specific opportunity?
To go back to Krishna.
To go back to Krishna. Okay? Yeah? Let's get a little bit more specific.
Liberation.
Liberation. Liberation from what? Material things. Liberation from material things. And meaning going to the supreme abode. Right? What is the nature of the spiritual world? What exists in the spiritual world?
Happiness.
In the spiritual world, Dukalam?
No.
Material world. Happiness.
No, sorry, I thought material world. I heard the opposite.
Ah, we are all backwards now. Twisted.
I heard as a material world.
Okay, let's restart.
Chapter 1.
We know what is in the material world. The Dukalam and the Shashwata, right? We just have to, if we have any doubt, just open the newspaper. And what do we see? So much difficulty, so much turmoil, stress. And sandwiched in between here and there is some good things, but generally speaking it is difficult. Right? But in the spiritual world, what do we find?
Eternal happiness.
Eternal happiness.
Bliss.
It is Vaikunta, free of all miseries. Not some miseries, not one or two miseries, but all miseries. And not temporarily. Today I'm free of miseries, today I'm happy, I'm on vacation, I'm on the beach, sun is shining, everything is nice. But we know what's coming tomorrow? What? Either office, either more bills, either rain, something we know is coming, right? But in the spiritual world, what is coming tomorrow?
More happy.
Who said more? That is the key. More happiness than today. Even we go to the most, wonderful, beautiful place and we're enjoying on vacation. After some time we'll become
Bored.
bored. We'll want something more. Right? Any wonderful experience, eventually the taste, the happiness we get from that, it always fades. Just like you put a colored, shirt outside in the sun, it fades, right? The color fades. Like that. The happiness we get from anything we see here, it fades. But in the spiritual world, the activities that are performed, each day, they are sweeter than the day before. That's the inconceivable sweetness of the spiritual world. That the happiness, it is not only constant, eternal. That means it's never interrupted. But it is also getting sweeter and sweeter. And when does it end? That's why it says it's an eternally increasing ocean of nectar of bliss. It never ends. Just like you can virtually never get to the end of an ocean, which materially you can, but just to try to understand in relation. This is what's in the spiritual world. And is there activity in the spiritual world?
Yes.
Yes.
Lots.
Lots of games.
Lots of games. Because Krishna told us right in the beginning of the second chapter, okay, never is there a time that I did not exist, nor us. Also in the future, neither of us shall cease to be. Which means in the spiritual world, we also have individuality. We have a form, a personality. We have experiences. We have relationships. We have emotions. And we know that this material world, it is nothing but a reflection of the spiritual world. As we say, nothing can be in the reflection, nothing can be seen in a reflection that doesn't exist in the original object, right? You cannot look in the mirror and see something that doesn't exist in the mirror, that doesn't exist on you. It only is reflecting what is here, right? So this material world, we see so many things. We should remember that the relationships, the emotions, the happiness, they all exist in their pure form in the spiritual world. So not only will we not miss anything here, but we'll also experience it in a much sweeter form. So this is what awaits one. How many of think this is something nice to get? Sweet. We should try to aspire. Few? Okay. So actually there is no greater achievement the soul can acquire than going back home where it came from. The spiritual world is our eternal home. And that's why Krishna says here that upon leaving this body, never takes his birth again in the material world. Does not ever. And goes back home to the eternal world. So this is where we belong. This is where we find our real happiness. And so the only question then is how to get there. Can I go on kayak and put starting destination Detroit, ending destination Goloka Vrindavan, and figure out?
Spiritual booking dot.
It's called Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is giving us the formula. Right? So it almost seems too easy, no? Too good to be true. We just need to know the nature of his appearance and activities, and one can achieve this eternal life of bliss and happiness. Right? So now we have to understand then, okay, there must be, what is this? We said understanding means? Realize knowledge. Realize knowledge means? Applying. Meaning my activities, my day-to-day activities are in line with this understanding. That's realized knowledge. Right? Knowing I am not this body, but I am spirit soul, becomes realized when the activities, the decisions I make each day reflect this knowledge. At the end of the day, every day we wake up in the morning, in the middle of the day, and at the end of the day. And we are faced with so many decisions about what to do. Different options, some big decisions, some very small decisions. But we are faced with decisions. To the extent we are looking at those decisions from the perspective that I am spirit soul, I'm eternally connected to the Supreme Lord, then I have realized this knowledge. To the extent I am making those decisions, forgetting that, I have not yet realized it. So this is the way for us to really understand, break it down to daily things. When I make that decision, what am I going to eat? Am I thinking about that from the perspective I am spirit soul? when I think about, what am I going to do in this hour of free time I have? Am I thinking about it from the perspective of soul or body? When I have a decision to make about, whether I'm going to take this job promotion or not, what perspective am I looking at that decision from? That's what's going to help us understand how close we are to realizing this knowledge. Because the knowledge itself is pretty straightforward, but again, realizing it is the hard part. Okay, so now let's talk about appearance and activity. When we understand what is the nature of Krishna's appearance, how does Krishna appear?
Baby.
He appears as a baby. Does he appear like us?
When he wants, how he wants.
When he wants. And that's the last time. Anybody got to pick their birthday? I'd like to be born on April 16th. Anybody got to pick? Does Krishna get to pick?
Yes.
He appears when he wants. He also appears where he wants. Anybody got to pick your hometown, your birth town? Anybody got to pick, I'd like to be born in this house, but not this one. They don't make good chapatis in this house. Anybody got to pick like that? But Krishna does. So Krishna appeared. Where did Krishna appear? Prison house. Interesting choice of places to appear, right? Of course, for great Leela in pastime. But Krishna chose to appear in the prison house. Okay? And of course, he chooses to whom? Anybody got to pick their parents? No. Okay? So we understand immediately that Krishna's appearance and our appearance, same or different?
Different.
Similar or very different?
Very
Different. Completely different. Why? What fundamental reason?
Previous birth karmas decide where.
Okay, so our appearance is based on previous activities. We are forced by the laws of nature to appear in different places. It's not forced by random. It's based on our past karma. But it is by default. And what is leading to Krishna's? What is driving Krishna's appearance?
He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is controller, maintainer, and preparator of everything.
Ah, perfect. He's the Supreme Lord. He is the controller. He is the proprietor, meaning owner. He is the maintainer. And I'll add one more. He is the enjoyer. So he is the Supreme Lord. And we are dependent. At least we can say we are dependent. Right? Are we independent? What happens if the sun doesn't rise tomorrow?
Go back to sleep.
We're done. Done. Can anybody control the sun coming up tomorrow? But I think I am independent. I am control of my own destiny. Right? Can anybody control? You put chapati in the mouth, it'll nourish the body and muscles. Anybody can control that? What do? We put it in and just hope the machine works. I think, no, I'm in control of my body. I move it here, move it there. But actually, do we have really control? As I said, we cannot even control the growth of our little fingernail. So Krishna's control is so extreme that not even a blade of grass can move in the wind without his sanction. And our control is so limited that we cannot even stop the growth of our fingernail. So we see distinct difference between Krishna's appearance and ours. So that brings us to one unequivocal conclusion. And what is that conclusion?
Krishna is Supreme Personality.
Krishna's Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have, okay.
We are
And then
part-
who are we?
We are part and parcel.
Part and parcel of Krishna.
We are part and parcel of Krishna.
We are servant of Krishna.
We are Krishna's servant. We are being maintained in all aspects of our existence by the Supreme Lord. Krishna is maintaining in his unlimited ways each and every living entity. Who is maintaining the earth floating in the sky? The exact distance that it is, so it's neither too hot nor too cold. The Supreme Lord. Who is providing the water, the rain, the seeds, the soil, everything so that we can eat? The Lord. Who is providing the oxygen in the system that allows us to breathe? So the Lord is maintaining us in all ways. Right? So it says, Nitya Nityananam Chaitanas Chaitananam. Among all the eternals, we are eternal and Krishna is eternal. But there is a supreme eternal, and that is the Supreme Lord. Why? Eko Bahunam. One is maintaining all others. And that maintaining person is Krishna. So, with any sense of decency, even, forget love yet, but decency, if somebody is maintaining us in all aspects of life, we have at least some responsibility to acknowledge, to reciprocate. Right? We're staying in somebody's home, and they are feeding us, giving us place for staying, and all that. And all day we are living in their home, and we pay no attention to them. Would we consider that very considerate? How long they'll let us stay in their home in that way? Pretty much to say, it's time for you to go. But actually we go through this material world completely blind to the Lord is maintaining and providing us. And if we don't at least acknowledge, we're no different than staying in somebody's house and not appreciating and paying any. So this is our responsibility. It's certainly a great opportunity, but it's also a responsibility. So Krishna is our maintainer. He is our provider. And so when we understand the difference between us and Krishna and his appearance, it illuminates and brings us to one logical conclusion. We must surrender and love the Lord, serve the Lord. He is our ever well-wisher. He is our supreme Father. He is our maintainer, giver of everything. And when we do, we can go back to the spiritual world. Because our eternal nature of the soul, it has only one function. And that is to engage in loving service with the Lord. Right? To engage with the Supreme Lord. To be his servant. That is our nature. That's what gives us actual happiness. In the material world, when we hear a servant, we think, no, that's not, right? That has the connotation of, I am subjected and somebody is benefiting from my service. That is the nature of what we experience in the material world. But in the spiritual world, the relationship of servant and master is completely opposite. So this service nature, we should first understand it is intrinsic to the soul. If you see in the world, everyone is always serving someone. And if you have nobody to serve, then you'll serve your dog. And just walk your dog, pick up its stool, do everything for your dog. Why? Because there's a nature in the soul to serve. It gets happiness actually from serving. So the only question then is, whom to serve? And Krishna is telling us here, when we understand that I am the Supreme Father, the well-wishing, loving maintainer of all, rendering service to the Supreme Lord, this is what brings about our entry to the spiritual world. Awakening this. Now, when we say that though, we want to know what's in it for me. Right? What is going to be my experience? If I'm going to serve Krishna, I want to know, right? Like, I'm not going to go to the office and render service to the boss until I know one thing. What do I want to know? What's my pay? What's my salary? Is there a bonus? How fast will the salary grow? Right? We want to know these. How many hours I'm required to work? We don't want to know the maximum. We want to know the minimum. Right? We want to know these details to know, am I going to serve in this office? Right? So if we're going to serve Krishna, we should also see what is the experience of those who are serving Krishna. Because if those who are serving Krishna are unhappy, are we going to want to follow?
No.
But if they are happy, are we going to want to follow? Yeah. Right? So that's why we come to the second point. What are the activities of Krishna? So now let's discuss, what are the activities of Krishna? If you had to summarize the single thing that Krishna does, what is his primary activity?
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Enjoy with the devotees.
Being with devotees.
Speak more. Enjoying?
Enjoying with the devotees.
With the devotees.
With the
A
devotees.
little more detail. What does Krishna want to do every day?
Serve the devotees.
Leela.
Leela, his pastime. So he performs these leelas, these pastimes, for the purpose of
Bringing us back
Pleasure of
to
the
him.
devotees. Pleasure of the devotees.
giving happiness to his devotees. Krishna only has one desire, to give happiness to his devotees. Now we can see, in the material world, the boss, right, the controller of the company, when every employee walks in the door, what does he want? Maximum output from them for minimum compensation. What's the absolute minimum I need to compensate to get them to come back tomorrow? Because then I can keep more myself, right? That's the mentality. Now Krishna, being the CEO of the spiritual world, of the whole universe of creation, what's his only objective?
Give more to devotees.
Give happiness to his devotees. Give happiness to his devotees. That is actually Krishna's only activity. That is what he enjoys doing. But we want evidence, no? We want proof. How do we know? So then we go and we hear about Krishna's pastimes. When he manifests in the material world, we see how Krishna was constantly enjoying with all the residents of Vrindavan. And then what's interesting, when you read particularly from Srimad Bhagavatam, you see so many similarities when they describe Krishna and the boys, the cowherd boys going into the forest. It reminded me of my childhood, where you go and you take somebody's lunch and then you're throwing and playing keep away, right? They do that, and Krishna does that. He's enjoying with the cowherd boys this way. Once Krishna was seated with all of his friends, and the mothers would all pack a lunch because they were going deep into the forest. So they would pack a lunch. And like what most boys do, and maybe girls do too, when they open their lunch, they all compare what my mother gave, what your mother gave, and who makes the best this and that, right? And so like this, they would be tasting each other's prasad. So one time, one boy said, "Oh, my mother has made the best sweet." I don't know what it was. And Krishna said, "Really? Rasgulla out here." So Krishna says, "I want to try." So the cowherd goes, "Okay, close your eyes, I'll give you." So he closes his eyes, and he's waiting. Krishna's waiting. And the cowherd boy puts the rasgulla. What do he take? He takes a flower. A flower. And sticks in his mouth. And Krishna eats it. Oh, what is it? And all the boys fell over laughing. They couldn't sit up. They were just laughing and laughing. And the whole rest of the day, they were just laughing at how Krishna ate the flower. And like this, Krishna enjoys giving happiness to him. This is the supreme controller, the supreme personality of Godhead. And he is waiting to eat the preparation from the hands of one of his friends that is made by one of the elderly residents of the mountain. This is how the Supreme Lord interacts with his devotees. When Nanda Maharaj is asking Krishna, and Krishna, please go bring my shoes. I'm going out. How Krishna brings them?
Put it in the sand.
He carries them on his head, and he's walking, and he is waddling to Krishna, to his father. This is the supreme personality of Godhead. When Krishna, the elderly gopis, when Krishna was a young boy, when you have a young boy or young girl, when they grow, every few days, few weeks, they do something new, right? Something different and exciting. And what do? We tell our friends, or we take a picture and post on Facebook like this. We enjoy celebrating these new things, that our child can do. So Krishna knows this. So, Mother Yashoda would sometimes ask him, you can bring this pot, the little heavy pot. So Krishna goes, he ties his belt. He smacks his arm, and he comes and picks it, and he carries, and then Mother Yashoda says, oh, my young boy is growing up. Now this is the Supreme Lord, whose expansion, Ananta Shesh, is holding millions of planets and universes on his hood. And he's pretending to struggle to lift some small pot. But a year prior, when he was a baby, he had take down this giant demon Trunarvata and smashed him to the ground. But they all forget. And they're very impressed now that their baby Krishna is lifting one big pot. This is the interaction of Krishna. And he goes on and performing every day these leelas, these pastimes, for the purpose of giving happiness to his devotees. And they enjoy in so many varieties, not just one way. They enjoy in varieties of friendship, in varieties of elder to younger, like this parental blessing. They enjoy in relationship of lovers. So much variety. They enjoy in the daytime, in the morning, in the evening, in the night, all different times of day, different seasons. Each season brings different opportunities for Krishna to enjoy. So he brings all this variety. And these are the activities. And so pleasing are these activities that even Krishna himself relishes them. When he's being served by the queens of Dwarka, 16,108 queens, headed by Rukmini, are serving Krishna in unimaginable opulence. Each queen has this palace like nothing we have seen in the creation. Beautiful, luxurious palaces. You would think the epitome, the highest of all enjoyment. And there, so many servants are engaged in serving Krishna. And when they are serving Krishna and Krishna is sleeping, sometimes when you're in deep sleep and you're happy, what do you start doing? We start talking in our sleep. And every time Krishna is talking in his sleep, what is he speaking about? Vrindavan. He is speaking about Vrindavan. He is speaking about how when he was a cowherd boy, a simple boy, and enjoying in the forest, how he was enjoying with Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba, the gopis, all these pastimes. And Queen Rukmini, she's so anxious to hear, we are serving Krishna with so much sincerity, so much love, but his heart is in Vrindavan. And she wants to know, what is so special about these pastimes that gives Krishna so much happiness? And when Krishna gets happiness, who gets happy more? All the devotees. So this special activities of Vrindavan, even Queen Rukmini wants to know what is happening. It's so sweet. So of course, she approaches Mother Rohini, the mother of Lord Balaram, during the eclipse at Kurukshetra, to hear these very specific pastimes, because these activities are so sweet. When we hear these activities of the Lord, and when we actually understand them, it leads us to only one conclusion. Just surrender in loving service to the Supreme Lord. It is the only logical conclusion. This happiness that the devotee receives from serving Krishna in this way is so intense, so high, that even it exceeds the happiness of Krishna himself. Now, how is that possible? How is that possible? How can the source of everything have less than what his devotees have? In the material world, who has more wealth, the employee or the boss? This is by nature, right? It can never be the other way around. But in the spiritual world, it's the opposite. Krishna actually gives more happiness to his devotees than even himself. He's so perplexed by the happiness of bhakti, as we know. He comes and tries to experience it himself. It's so sweet. So this is why it looks pretty simple. Just knowing the appearance and activities of Krishna, we can enter the spiritual world. But now we know why. Because if we understand the appearance, we know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no other conclusion. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And He is my maintainer. And so I must render service to Him. That's it. And what is the result of rendering service? Enjoying these activities with Krishna in unimaginable ways. All the things that we are trying to enjoy in the material world, with all of our relationships, all of the varieties of activities, every single last one of them that we are trying to enjoy in the material world, know factually that activity exists in its pure state in the spiritual world. Why? It's a reflection. Everything we are enjoying in a reflection, it exists in its pure form in the spiritual world. If we have faith in this, then it's not so easy, difficult to surrender. And just love the Lord. And if we do, as Krishna says, never come back, yukala na shashvatam, and simply enjoy eternally in the spiritual world. So this is the benediction we have that is waiting for all of us. But as I opened, knowledge is one thing. Now the question is, as I approach my decisions tomorrow and the next day and the next day, how am I going to make the decisions and what activities I'm going to do? In light of this knowledge or forgetfulness of this knowledge? That will determine our path forward. Thank you very much. So Prabhupada, any comments, questions, discussion today? Yes.
The sentences are a bit on the negative side, where it says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, takes his birth again in this material world, which is correct. This does not, if it comes once who does not know, on the starting sentence, that makes sense, but attains my eternal abode. So that comes only for whoever is knowing of the true nature.
Yeah, so one who knows the nature does not, upon leaving the body, take birth, but instead attains my eternal abode.
There's a comma though.
Yeah. Right? So, does not take birth, so you can, the comma upon leaving the body, you can ignore because that's separated by commas. So you can read, one who knows the nature of my appearance activities does not take birth in this world, but, and then you can add the word instead, or but attains my eternal abode. So you don't come to the material world, but you attain the abode. So that's the grammar. Okay?
So this is the easiest way for liberation, Prabhu, like knowing Krishna and his pastimes. And
I won't say it's the easiest, I'll say it's the only.
only.
That's what Prabhupada says, sorry.
Only.
There's no other way.
Yes.
There is no other way. Until we accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's no other means of liberation. So that's not a narrow statement. That's a broad statement of fact. It's the only way. Only way. But as we know, we have to have knowledge to know the way. Right? Something difficult becomes easy when we know how. I like to give the example. If you have a giant mango tree, the prospect of trying to water each and every mango seems very difficult. Like, how am I going to nourish all these mangoes? I need a big ladder, I need some kind of syringe, and I have to go to each and every, what if I miss one? But with some knowledge we know, how do you nourish all those mangoes?
Root.
But it's very counterintuitive, right? You're telling me put water down in the ground and it'll go up to the mangoes? Nonsense, my false ego will say. Right? But the agriculturalists will say, no, trust me. There's a giant root system below the ground that's made to absorb all this water, and through some mechanism no, gravity goes down, not up. We'll give all kinds of mental speculation, right? All kinds of mental, as Mata said earlier, our own intelligence gets in the way, right? That is what we do in spirituality. We actually accept material knowledge even more easier, even though at least material knowledge we can test, we can do some experimentation. So that hard process of watering on it becomes simple if we know how. So the process of going back to the spiritual world, it's difficult. But if we know how, Krishna says, he's going to go on to say in the 9th chapter, anyone can do this. Not only that, not only is the process relatively simple, but anyone is qualified. That's his love.
Thank you so much.
Stretching.
Prabhu, here in the Padpat, it's mentioned the Vedic version Tattvamasi is actually applied in this case, right?
Where are you saying that?
In page 195,
Uh-huh.
in the first
Yes, I see
paragraph,
that.
the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah.
So I'm not able to relate to the other sentences in this, Prabhu. In what context we should actually understand this, I'm not able to understand.
Which sentence is the...
So
or which concept? The one before, he who accepts this truth and the strength of the Vedas?
No, 195.
Yeah.
I will just read it. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita personally by the Lord.
Yeah.
He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can without a doubt attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tattvamasi, is actually applied in this case.
So, again, here's the idea that this fact, and it's referring back to this verse that Prabhupada has quoted, right? The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many transcendental forms of relationship with his unalloyed devotees. So, we see these statements in the Vedas. I just gave us so many statements about how Krishna enjoys in the spiritual world, this ever increasing bliss. All these statements I made. But we have, because of our intelligence or our false ego, we think, how do we know? How do I know? Prove it to me. I must know. Well, we should ask, how do I know? But how do we know? We know from bona fide Shastra, from bona fide authority. Just going to Google and saying, what happens in Golok Vrindavan, not sufficient. But going to bona fide Shastra, where it is said, and receiving from Guru Parampara, then we should accept as it is, without trying to apply our own, understanding. And actually, we do this all the time. We went to school, university, and teacher said a statement, and we took it as fact, and we accepted it. And we went on and took all that knowledge and took it as, why? Because we had some faith in the institution, right? The school, the university. There was some validation that they were teaching right. You go to some classes, you have a lab, right? In the lab, you try to prove a small sample of what we're learning. But most of the knowledge we take as it is. So similarly here, we accept this knowledge as fact and bring it into our consciousness, we're successful. But to the extent we keep doubting, keep questioning, keep wondering, how do I know? How do I know? That's what's going to happen. Because our own mental speculation, Prabhupada writes, who does not waste time in philosophical speculation. Why is philosophical speculation a waste of time? What is philosophical speculation?
Their own interpretation comes through. It may not. It's not coming from display success and our own side.
It's an illusion.
They're just speculating. Based on this and this, it should be this. This is what it should be. They're kind of hypothesizing. And we see this a lot. People put forth many, many theories, even in spiritual realms. And they debate. They engage in these huge debates about this, and they try to support them. But in the end, it's all a waste of time. Why?
Because you already know everything is true. You're receiving it from the Guru Parampara. You don't need to ask, is it right or not? Because it's already, it's right.
It's there. What's the point to speculate when it's there? It's like you eat a dish. You go and you eat a dish. You're tasting it. And you can, by your own taste buds and whatnot, analyze and speculate what ingredients are there, how many. Or you can just look at the recipe. The recipe is there. Then there's no need to speculate. Just read the recipe. There's no need to use our own analysis and interpretation. Right? Like this. The Shastras have already provided all the information. We just have to acquire it. We should ask questions. What's in Shastra? What does it say about this? What does it say about this? What is... Inquire all of that. And when we receive that knowledge, accept it. Because it's coming from the perfect source, the Supreme Lord. So it's a waste of time to try to analyze and speculate. I know. But it's not a waste of time to inquire. We must inquire. We must ask. We must resolve our doubts. It is good. We must ask, what about this and what about that? And we should get answers from Shastra. It matters zero what I think or what anybody else thinks. The only thing that matters is what Krishna has spoken in Shastra. That's what matters. One's opinion doesn't matter.
This is about the Brahmajyoti.
Huh?
Brahmajyoti.
Yes.
Is it a consciousness the yogis meditate on and they will attain the Brahmajyoti? So what they meditate on, so what it contains the Brahmajyoti and why they return?
The Brahmajyotir is the effulgence of Krishna. It is the light emanating from Krishna's body. The Brahmajyotir. That is the Brahmajyotir. And it fills the spiritual sky. Now, the impersonalists are worshipping this feature of Krishna. Krishna has an impersonal feature, which is his Brahmajyotir, and his personal feature, himself. Two features he has. So the impersonalists are attracted to this energy of Krishna. They're not attracted to eating rasgullas with Krishna, to riding in a boat with Krishna, to singing with that. They're attracted to the light, the energy of Krishna. So because of that, they meditate on that, and through that they can reach that state. But there's a problem. In that state, because the soul is active, it needs some activity. But in the impersonal feature, there's no activity because there's no personal relationships. And so one becomes bored, frustrated. And thus one will actually come back to the material world to experience those. I give the example, if you took a raft, it's a beautiful sunny day after a long week of work, and you go and you take a raft out to the middle of the lake, and you just lay on the lake and enjoy. And you're just staring at the sky and enjoying. How long you can enjoy like that? Hour? 2 hours? 3 or 4 days? What you'll want eventually?
Like to do something.
You're gonna want to do something, right? Just floating in the lake is not going to give us. It might give us some experience for some time, but eventually, because we are active by nature, we'll want to be engaged in something. So similarly, when the soul reaches this state, that nature for activity is going to still be there. It's innate. You cannot suppress it. You can subdue it for some time, but you cannot permanently suppress it. And thus, one will become frustrated and come back down. That's why the Brahmajyotir liberation is not a permanent destination. You cannot stay there. Because we'll not choose to. We'll become frustrated. Now, it is possible that one from that point can go forward to the Vaikuntha Loka, but it's very difficult.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dharat Pranam. As a Krishna devotee, is it the right dharma to pray to Lord in order to get rid of our past karma, rather burning the karma in this life?
So, should we pray to Krishna to eliminate our past karma? Well, the nice thing is, we don't even have to pray to him to do that. That is an automatic byproduct of bhakti. By rendering devotional service to Krishna, Krishna already says, I take care of all your past karma. Ma suchaha, do not fear. So by surrendering to the Lord, Krishna already says, I'm taking. So we don't even have to ask. It's just like in the house. Does a child have to ask mother for breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Mother just provides. Child doesn't have to ask. Actually, we don't have to ask Krishna for anything. We can, but we don't have to. Krishna will provide. He is our loving Father. He knows all of our needs. We simply engage in loving relationship. And we know that child in the house who just is loving and respectful and serving with parents, how much mother and father give to that child? Compared to one child is always asking, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Which child actually gets more?
Doesn't ask.
So we don't actually even have to ask. But if we're going to ask Krishna for something, right? We should ask for Krishna. Krishna, I read this statement. Please give me faith that I may apply it in my activities day to day. Please give me the strength to have faith in your statements. That we can pray for, and Krishna will provide. Because you can pray to Krishna for $1 million or this or that, but in the end of the day, what's it going to get us? But if we have faith in this statement, what it'll get us? Eternal happiness. Eternal happiness. So we pray to Krishna. Remove the impurities in the heart that preclude me from taking to this. So like that, devotees pray. But they have, and this is why Srimad Bhagavatam is so brilliant. Srimad Bhagavatam contains so many amazing compositions of prayer. And if we read them, we actually understand how to pray. They're so sweet, so wonderful, these prayers, so many of them. And by that we understand, whoa, this is the mood of prayer. So Srimad Bhagavatam is a great way for us to learn this mood of prayer. Anything else?
So Prabhuji, with regard to my appearance and my activities, so from what I understand is my appearance, we need to know his appearance so that we are coming to a conclusion that He is the Supreme Personality of the God. And my activities is so we know that He's here for the pleasure of the devotees. Like He's providing happiness to the devotees. So is that why we should be knowing that?
There's two things. I emphasize and focus on that aspect of it to connect the two, but also his activities establish himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead as well, right? So the activities of Krishna repeatedly establish him, right? Whether it's lifting Govardhan Hill, right? Whether it's destroying so many demons, whether it's maintaining 16,108 Y, like whatever it is, he establishes over and over again through his activities that he is the Supreme Lord. So that is also a conclusion. Both the appearance and the activities bring us to that. And the only logical conclusion from knowing that is to surrender to him. That's the only logical conclusion. But the activities also inspire us to understand what awaits us when we do surrender. Right? What is the result? So when I surrender to Krishna, what awaits me? What's in it? What do I get to experience? And that's a natural, logical question, right? If I go to the spiritual world, what am I going to do? So at least I can assess, is it something I want, right? When somebody tells us, oh, we should go to Hawaii, what do? We look it up. What's there to do? What are the activities? What's the weather like? What are the options? We do research to figure out, is it somewhere I want to go? I have to spend a lot of money, take vacation time, all that. So I better at least know what's there. So if we're going to say, yes, we should, shape our life in a way to become free from this material world and go to, at least I should know what's there. What am I aspiring for? It's a logical and reasonable and encouraged set of inquiry. We should know. So by studying Krishna's activities, we get some insight into what is that result. Because Krishna doesn't say accept this blindly. He doesn't say just take it. But he does say you should accept Shastra. So get your answers from the authority, the perfect authority.
Follow-up question to that, bro. So in order for anybody to surrender to Krishna, so the only way is to know his appearance and activities, or because there are like many devotees, at least from the stories that we read, they don't really know the philosophy, or they don't really read anything, but they just automatically get attracted to Krishna and surrender onto him. So in order for at least nowadays, is it the only way that
there's even the devotee who understands, if you surrender to the Lord, you know that he appears at his own will, because you know he's the supreme controller, right? The residents of Vrindavan, they are surrendered to Krishna, but due to this yoga maya potency, they don't remember that he is Krishna at that time. But in the core of their heart, they know he's the Supreme Lord. Right? So they understand that he is the controller and I am the loving dependent. That fact is never transcended. Even when the coward boy is putting the flower in the mouth of Krishna, he is not thinking, I am the master of this boy. Right? So it's hard for us to perceive because, we have this limited plane of mental analysis, but it coexists. So they know. They know he's the Supreme Lord. Again, that's the conclusion of knowing the appearance and activities. Right? Because even this fact, who is Krishna? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that, many fools deride me when I appear in my human form. They think I'm just some ordinary person. So just knowing that even is not an insignificant thing.
So one last question, brother. So what is the best way that we as a devotee could let others know about his appearance and activities? What way we could do?
Distribute Prabhupada's books. share this knowledge. This is the most beneficial charity and compassion. Share this knowledge. Engage in service. Bring them to the temple. We celebrate Shri Krishna Janmashtami. What is Janmashtami? Explain. Use that as an opportunity to explain this knowledge. Engage in honoring prasadam. All these things will help one come closer and closer. But ultimately, remember, this knowledge, it only manifests through the good chanting of the holy names. And we are discussing this knowledge, but it will enter the heart as we purify the heart by good chanting. That is the means. When we talk about taking the knowledge and turning it into realized knowledge, it happens from really good chanting. And that chanting empowered from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through Guru Parampara is what gives us the enthused chanting to truly purify and cleanse the heart. And then this knowledge will become realized very easily and very quickly. But without that, it's not going to happen. Anything else? Okay, shall we chant? Jai Prabhupada. Yeah,